rare than others, but the toy version, the plastic toy version. My daughter was addicted to this stuff. I was spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on these toys. And I think like any entrepreneur, you get curious. You're like, why this? Why are you so fascinated with this? So, I start looking into what this is. I look up the company that made this particular toy. This is a company called MGA, based out of California. And they were generating billions of dollars on this line of toys. Best-selling toy in the world 5 years in a row. And what you find is because they were the best-selling toy in the world, every other toy company just copied the model. So if you walk down a toy aisle like Target or Walmart, you'll see different permutations of this. So here's LOL Surprise, it's the big one. Keep walking down the aisle, you get rainbow corns. Keep walking down the aisle, you get real littles. Keep walking, you got Hatchimals. The list goes on and on. The entire toy industry has become predicated on this model, this blind bag model. So one day, this was about 2018, I was going, through my emails, and I see a blog post from Fred Wilson from Union Square Ventures, and he talks about this thing right here, Crypto Kitties. And this looks obviously pretty stupid at first, Crypto Kitties, but I was fascinated. Fred Wilson, as you know, Fred is a legend, one of the first investors in Twitter, Tumblr, a number of others, well-respected, VC. And he said he's investing in this new company called Axiom Zen. They're renaming to Dapper Labs, and they have this concept called Crypto Kitties, which is like collectible digital cats. And he's like, don't laugh. It looks stupid, but digital collectibles are going to be a big thing one day. And to me, digital collectibles made all the sense in the world. I grew up as a comic book collector, baseball cards, then got into video games, and the idea of provable digital scarcity on the blockchain, even though it looked like digital cartoon cats, was incredibly exciting for me. At the same time, we have this craziness going on with my daughter. And one day I'm working from home. This was like 2018. My daughter screams from the playroom with excitement. And she's like, Dad, come quick, come quick. Oh my God, I got it. I got the ultra rare. I found the ultra rare. And I go to see what she's doing. She's holding up one of these plastic dolls, a gold one. She looks at it for like 10 seconds and then throws it in the bin with all the other ones just to collect dust there in the corner, the big plastic mountain. And that was the big light bulb moment for me. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, here is this multi-billion-dollar segment of the toy industry that's predicated on collectability and scarcity. We can now do this digitally for the first time ever, thanks to this Crypto Kitty thing that Fred is talking about, this NFT thing. So I asked my daughter, I said, sweetheart, what if I were to make you the digital version of LOL Surprise and Hatchimals, where you can collect them, chase after the rare ones, but then when you get them, you can actually do things with them. Play games with them, interact with them. Would that be something you'd be interested in? And what's an 8-year-old girl going to say? Oh my God, Dad, that's amazing. Absolutely, I would love that. So I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, I got a couple years left on my earnout. Don't really love my job. Let me build this little side project for my daughter. It'd be like nights and weekends, bonding with my daughter. So we got together, me and my old co-founders from Live Ninja, our buddy Freddie, who was working at Disney and Konami Games, he joined, and we created this side project called Cryptoys. Now, in 2018, nobody really cared about NFTs at all. Nobody knew what the term NFT was. Digital collectibles weren't a thing beyond like Crypto Kitties, Crypto Punks, and a few other things. So it was a hard sell. And we were making this for our kids nights and weekends. And I remember going around town, I just sold Live Ninja, and, we'd go out for lunch with like an investor or a buddy, say, hey, Will, just want to catch up, see what you're up to. And so like, Will, you just sold Live Ninja. What's your next move? What are you going to do next? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure yet, but let me show you this digital panda that I'm working on. And they're like, uh-huh. I'm like, it lives on the blockchain. And they're like, yeah, sure. Sure it does, bro. It was like one of those moments like, these digital pandas, are they in the room with us now? Kind of thing. You look like you're absolutely insane when you're talking about this stuff. Crypto kitties and crypto punks and digital pandas. But we were building it for our kids, and that was enough for us. Just making progress nights and weekends. Lo and behold, we got, a few, more pieces of the prototype together. We met Jake. Thankfully, Jake, saw us, and this was a couple years back, and he said, this was an amazing project. Any day you're not doing this, full time is a day wasted. So we kind of got, the ability to finally quit our jobs and do this full time and make this a full-time company. So thank you to Jake, who took a bet on us early on. Yeah, round of applause for Jake real quick. Allowed us to quit our jobs and make this a real thing. And the real vision behind Cryptoys is we're trying to reimagine what a toy company looks like. And the idea is to build the world's premier digital toy company. So if you think of a company like Hasbro or Mattel, if you were to create those companies from scratch today, and they were digital first and NFT native, what would those toy companies look like? And then how do you imagine the concept of play in a fully digital world? How do you play with digital toys? So that's what we're reimagining with Cryptoys. We have 3 pillars to the company. We have digital toys and collectibles, so the things that you can buy here, we'll show that in a minute. Games and applications, so how do you play with toys in different ways? And then original entertainment. We're actually building an animated series and whatnot. So there's a lot of big vision behind this company, not just the toy aspect, not just the gaming aspect, the entertainment aspect, and how it all combines to create something really, really compelling. And I'll showcase some ideas at a high level and some of the things that make Cryptoys unique from a product standpoint, and then I'll get into some themes that we think really are interesting that we should talk about today. Now, what we made here, and it goes back to my daughter and these physical unboxing toys, and we thought, how can we make this incredibly compelling from a digital standpoint? So we wanted to create the ultimate digital unboxing experience. So basically the way it works with Cryptoys is you have these things called Cryptoy cubes. And it starts with an unboxing experience where you get sucked in through a portal. Everything is portal based here on our platform. And this is a Cryptoy cube. So even though it's digital, it feels very tactile. We can't hear it right now, but there's sound effects, clicks and clacks. So even though it's on the screen, you get haptic feedback and it feels like something that's really, really tangible. And then as soon as you interact with it, the whole kind of Cryptoy lights up, you line up all the colors, the whole thing explodes with confetti. And then inside is a newly minted Cryptoy, which you can see here. Now, what's cool about this is you have a choice at this point. You could keep it here in the packaging, like a physical collector would, and keep it pristine and in mint condition. And you get benefits by doing that. There's airdrops and staking benefits, et cetera. But then if you wanted to play with the toy, you tap on it again, the whole packaging will burn off, and your Cryptoy will come to life. And now you have a fully playable gaming character that you can do a bunch of different things with, which is really cool. So the first thing you can do is take it out for a spin on this area that we call the block. So here's that toy that we just took out of the packaging. This is full real-time Unity, and you're going for a spin on the blockchain. This is your Cryptoy walking around the blockchain here, fully interactive. So really cool, and it's very interesting to kind of think about what you can do if the laws of physics aren't a limitation. If all of a sudden you could do whatever you want with a toy, what possibilities become, achievable? So that's what we're reimagining with Cryptoys and building a bunch of games and applications around this framework. Something that was really surreal was a few months back, we met with the folks at Mattel, and they became a partner of ours. One of the biggest gaming companies, toy companies in the world, saw what we were doing. They love what we were building, and we entered a multi-year partnership with Mattel, and not just a licensing deal where we're licensing their IP and building Cryptoys for them, but they actually also invested in the company in our Series A. So really, really exciting. They see digital as a big part of the future, and we'll talk a little bit more, later in this presentation with Jake about the future of play, and is it the conversation of physical versus digital, and if there even is a competition. But Mattel thinks of it not as a competition. It's not about physical or digital. It's physical and digital, and just evolving to methods of play as things progress. Here's a picture of our team. We actually had the chance to go to Comic-Con in San Diego. This was super surreal. It's looking at the picture, it still doesn't feel real. Our first Comic-Con, and they put us on stage and they're like, hey, Will, we want you and your team to sign posters of Masters of the Universe. It was the first line we did for them. And I don't know why, but as I was on the flight to San Diego, I thought they were going to give me like a little barbecue table, like a little white table, and I'd just be sitting there in the corner. But they gave us a really nice booth, and we got a chance to meet with Masters of the Universe fans, and that was an amazing and still very surreal experience. So here you could see what we're doing now from a licensing standpoint. We're taking their Masters of the Universe IP, that same experience that we did before, but now creating very unique licensed experiences around that particular IP. So this is Masters of the Universe. Who grew up with Masters of the Universe and He-Man? And everybody remember He-Man from back in the day? Okay, you got a couple folks, right? So, creating a very cool experience. And even though, again, it's a digital unboxing, something that really delights people of all ages. And we're getting people that are 30, 40, 50 years old saying, I feel like a kid again unboxing these things. So Really, really exciting times, and we have a lot of major IP announcements that we're going to announce. And despite the market conditions, brands are very, very bullish on Web3 still. We're fielding calls on a weekly basis. Rebecca's our head of partnerships right there, and right, the appetite from a brand perspective is still incredibly high despite macro market conditions. And here you can see just kind of what we're doing from a playset perspective. So not just the toys themselves. This was created 100% from scratch by our team in Unity. So you can do a bunch of creative stuff, not just for the toys themselves, but playsets and whatnot. So I think we want to discuss the future of play. This is a big theme, throughout the company and throughout the industry. This is my daughter, Victoria. So she's very much the inspiration, for the company. And I tell people a lot, like I am the temporary CEO of Cryptoys. I'm really just keeping the seat warm for her because she has the best ideas. So I'm just trying not to screw up too bad, so that in about 8 years or so, when she becomes of age, she'll be able to become the CEO if she's still interested. And it's amazing thinking about this, from her perspective, and I'll get to see the whole world through her eyes and what she thinks about toys and gaming and just play in general. So we're about to get into the Hanukkah holiday season here. We're Jewish, so we celebrate Hanukkah. And it was interesting, just last year, I asked Victoria what she wants for the 8th night of Hanukkah. Now, the 8th night's like the big night, when you're Jewish. The first 7 nights of Hanukkah are like little tchotchkes and like little gifts. The 8th night's the big gift, right? It's like when I was a kid, one year I got like a Super Nintendo or like a bicycle, or one year I got a trip to Orlando. It was always what you looked forward to, was the 8th night. So I asked my daughter last year, I said, sweetheart, what do you want for the 8th night of Hanukkah? And she goes, oh my God, Dad, I know what I want. I know what I want. She rushes upstairs, she grabs her iPad, and she wants me to authorize a $99 in-app purchase in her favorite game. And at first I was like taken aback by this. I'm like, this is it? This is the big gift? You want an in-app purchase? And to her, she was so certain of it because all of a sudden it unlocked a bunch of digital items inside of this game that she could play with her friends in different ways, even friends that were not local, but also in different cities. And to me, that was absolutely fascinating. Now, what was missing is I've spent a lot of money over the years on digital items. I would have loved to be able to tell Victoria, you know what, fine, I'll get you the $99 pack of digital items. But first, let's go sell all the items that you've bought over the years that you don't play with anymore. Or better yet, let's donate them to charity or to a kid that can't afford it. Currently, she's unable to do neither. She has no rights to any of the digital stuff that she's purchased over the years. Now, you compare that physically to her toys in her playroom, right, or in her room. All of those things, there's nothing stopping her from grabbing her Barbie or grabbing a Hot Wheel and going to donate it to Goodwill or selling it on eBay or gifting it to a friend. But digitally, she has none of those rights whatsoever. And to me, that's a little bit backwards. And you think of it, this is happening throughout. It's not just with kids and digital items. Gaming happens, in the whole industry from a gaming perspective, happens in the same way. So for example, I can buy on Xbox, I can go to GameStop and buy for $60 a copy of the new Halo. And I can go home, I could play with it, I could beat the game, I could sell it back to GameStop, I could gift it to a friend, I can do whatever I want with it, it's my game. But for some reason, I could spend that exact same amount of money, $60, on the digital download, play the exact same game, but I have no rights to it whatsoever. And to me, that makes no sense. It's just because one is physical and one is digital, the rights change. So I think that's what we're kind of trying to change as far as like how we think of digital items and whatnot. And I think the next generation, Victoria here, she's going to look back on it 20 years from now, and I think she's going to look at us like we were ancient. She's going to be like, wait a second, Dad, you mean to tell me that you spent 80 hours playing that game, earning items, and didn't actually own those items? Like, to her, it's going to be completely foreign as we get into more of an ownership economy and Web3 becomes more widely adopted. And I think gaming, it's important to understand the methods of play from back when we were kids and the methods of play for the kids in this generation. Now, we might look at kids on their iPad. Victoria has an iPad, right? She plays with it, a couple hours a day, and be like, okay, she's playing video games. Or my son, Kevin, he's playing on Roblox. They're playing video games. And this is what video games look like to me when I was playing. This is GoldenEye, one of the best games of all time, right, on N64. This is what I did. I played it, and you shoot up a bunch of people, and you have a lot of fun, right? But kids are playing games, and it's a lot different. this is what's, some of the games that kids play these days. And I'm watching my son and my daughter play Roblox. And it's a very different experience, even though it's digital, to say like, hey, let's go shoot up a bunch of people in a game. Instead, they're saying like, hey, Benji, meet me in the corner and let's build something together. They're talking to each other on FaceTime as they're interacting. To them, it's more like after school socializing and an activity, but it's location agnostic. So sometimes like we look at kids on their iPad or in front of a computer and be like, that's too much screen time. And to an extent, that could be true. We always have to monitor screen time, but not all screen time is created equal. For what we did back in the day and what kids are doing is very, very different. When kids game, it's much more a social experience than what we did back as kids. And we have to have that distinguished difference there. And the market for digital items and digital goods is growing astronomically. So again, JP Morgan just did a study. The digital goods market, again, it was 54 billion spent annually, and it's supposed to grow by 2025 to 74 billion. You compare that to other industries like recorded music and movie box office revenue, 42 billion and 30 billion respectively. This is one of the biggest markets from a media perspective, and it's only going to grow as we have more and more people that get accustomed to entertaining themselves digitally through gaming and interactions. So this is pretty much the story. This is how we got to today. This is actually a picture that Victoria and I took. We just took a trip to California where Mattel gave her a backstage tour of the facility after we established the partnership with them. And she was just absolutely blown away, and it was a surreal moment for me. And I'm just really, really excited to build the future of play alongside my daughter and see where we can take things from here. So that's my little presentation. And now I think we'll do a little fireside chat with Jake.
Thanks, Will.
Going on this side? So.
I'll go on this side if that's it. Or no.
Yeah.
You're right. When Will talks about Cryptoys, you can like hear the passion and excitement in his voice, which is so cool. Okay, so I have like a bunch of different questions, and then we're gonna open it up for audience questions as well. So if you guys think of stuff you want to ask Will as we're talking. But so you talked a little bit about how your daughter's inspired you for Cryptoys, but can you talk a little bit about like what drives you as an entrepreneur, like in general?
Yeah. So again, this whole future of play concept in general is something I'm really passionate about. We can't change the fact that if you think of the world 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to become more and more digital. That is just something we can't avoid. It's happening with us. It's happening with the next generation. But I think we need to go about it in really smart ways. And for me, I really just want to make sure as a father, I'm a father to 3 kids, I want to have a seat at the table to like at least craft or be in the conversation of what the future of play looks like, both from a gaming standpoint and from the toy industry standpoint, making sure we're doing it in a responsible way and in an impactful way. That promotes creativity, that promotes entrepreneurship, that promotes ownership, that introduces people to a new economy that's going to be incredibly important over the next couple decades. So for me, that's what really drives me, is having an impact on the next generation.
Can you give the audience like an idea of like, when you're thinking about the toy market, how can we measure that? Like, how big is that? How many people in the world buy toys, or like how many billions of dollars is that?
It's interesting. It's hard to define. I mean, we just talked about like 59 billion, and now it's going to grow to like 74 billion, right, over the next few years. To me, the toy industry is shifting incredibly fast. And what we had as kids when you and I were growing up is plastic toys and physical toys. And now you have the whole digital world. And you look at kids in this next generation, they transfer from different methods and modalities of play very seamlessly. They go from, okay, I'm playing with this toy, then I'm going to grab my iPad and go back and forth. To them, it's not about physical or digital. They just think about, how am I playing right now? And you look at a company like Mattel, and this is why I have so much respect for them. Mattel, legacy toy company, right? When they wanted to reinvent themselves, they hired Ynon, who's the CEO of Mattel. He comes from an entertainment background. They could have hired an old school legacy physical toy executive. They hired somebody from Hollywood and from the entertainment industry, because they know that it's not just about physical toys. It's all about it's also about gaming. It's also about movies. It's just entertainment in general. The future of play combines all these things. So when we think of the toy industry, I like to view it through the lens of what Mattel's looking at, where it's not just physical. Physical is one segment, but then you have, what does a digital toy look like, and what does gaming look like, and how does, like, movies, you see what Mattel's doing. They have a Barbie movie coming out this summer. Then they also have a Hot Wheels movie that they signed up for, so that they can create these holistic experiences. It's just about interacting with brands and play in different modalities, and it all ties together.
So like, that's a good way of thinking about it. The segments, physical toys, digital toys. Is the future that most toys, in fact, might be digital?
So I think that we're moving into a place where we don't have to think about it as physical versus digital. Sure, we have to think about it from a production standpoint and a marketing standpoint, but the toy industry, I think, will transfer into this hybrid kind of market. Like, for example, what we're doing with Cryptoys is we're creating a digital first toy company, but a big part of what we're doing in the future is physical redeemables. You collect 15 Cryptoys, you'll get mailed to you a high-end physical Cryptoy. And again, I'm not out there to compete with physical and say physical's bad. I think it's incredible. I'm a physical collector as well. If you look at my office, I'm not ashamed to say it at this point. I got Ninja Turtles. I got a bunch of stuff like hanging around. I got, Master Universe and He-Man on my shelf. I am not anti-physical whatsoever. I'm a huge physical toy collector and just a physical collector in general, comic books, cards. But I think as things evolve, it's funny. I'll make this as a reference point. When we launched Masters of the Universe, we became a lot of people's first NFT and digital toy. And Masters of the Universe, you have a lot of people that grew up with He-Man. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They saw this and they're like, what the hell is this? Why would I want a digital toy? And they said, you know what, I'm curious. And they bought it. They bought a bunch of them. And they said, you know what, as soon as I got it, I get it. Because I love my physical collection, but it's here in my basement. I can't take it with me. I can't take it anywhere. It was amazing. I was just on a road trip with my kid, and I was able to hand him my phone, and he was able to access all of my toy collection from anywhere. And I was able to take it. He's like, that's really powerful. And to him, it unlocked like this whole different way of thinking, where it's not about physical versus digital, which is physical collectors have that pride. It's about what's the future and how do we tie these things together really nicely.
So it also sounds like you think that it's not just kids who are the target market here. Is that right?
That's for sure. I mean, we start with a lot of people that are heavy into nostalgia. It's not an accident we started with Masters of the Universe, because a lot of folks in the Web3 space, look, we want to be the on-ramp for folks to experience Web3 and NFTs for the first time. But the early adopters really are your earliest supporters, and most of the folks in Web3 are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, right? So nostalgic IP is a big part of what we're doing, and then introducing new IPs as we go. So yeah, it starts with an older audience and goes down.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about kind of the value proposition of making these toys as NFTs, which is digital ownership, which is a common kind of theme in NFT world when people try to explain like why digital ownership is cool. But one aspect of that is that it turns these digital assets into kind of financial technology, right? It's like we're starting to hear about NFTs being used as collateral to get a mortgage for your house, right? Especially the really expensive ones. We're seeing like exchanges that trade only NFTs. We're seeing all kinds of financialization technology develop around NFTs. So is that something that like you maybe worry about a little bit when you're in a kid context?
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, I think we're really early stages of NFTs. The way people think about NFTs, unfortunately, right now, because we're still early, is as investments. And the only way that this becomes mainstream is if people look at them first and foremost as something they enjoy, as a product first and foremost, and not as an investment. So we have to grow up past that particular phase. For me, we want to do this in a very safe way, and I think that's the opportunity. You start with adults, you start with parents, and we're introducing this like Netflix style account system where you have the parent account at the top, and then you have sub accounts for the kids. of younger audiences. So you can do it in a safe way where really the parents have the ownership, and then, you know, they have sub accounts that, you know, they can watch what their kids are doing with the assets. So we're being very smart about that. But I think therein lies the opportunity to do something really, really massive and important. The way that I think about NFTs, and we're so early on, is it reminds me of back in the day when MP3s were first introduced. And remember when MP3s and like Napster was the thing, and Winamp, we were like MP3, like, oh my gosh, how do I get the MP3? And what's an MP3 player? But nowadays you fast forward 15, 20 years later, and we just listen to music online. And I think that's where we're heading with NFTs. We're going to stop referencing them as NFTs. We're just reference them as like a digital collectible or a digital toy, and that's where we want to get to. But it's taking some stages to get there. So we're very cautious of the misconceptions early on, and we're doing a lot of education around it so that people could access them in safe ways.
Someone paid $69 million for an NFT one time, not too long ago, but now kids can do it too. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so.
Off that.
Got to do a little carry on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's turn a little bit to On-Chain Studios, which is the company. Tell us a little bit about your team. Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, so it's crazy to think, you know, when you met us, we were just 5 people and doing this part-time, and, you know, thankfully, thanks to your support and by other incredible investors and partners, we were able to grow the team. We're now 57 people full-time, you know, spread out across the country, some here in Miami, a big chunk out in LA. Absolutely incredible. I think the majority is comprised of art and animation. Like you guys can see, the art and animation is really high fidelity. So we have a great team of artists and animators, and then a lot of engineers that write the smart contracts and do Unity development to make the games and whatnot. So really, really surreal to see where it's come. And then obviously we round out the team with a bunch of great marketers, business development, operations, and support and things like that. But yeah, 57 people. Incredibly blessed to work with them on a daily basis, and amazing partners as well. You know, not just great investors like you, but also licensing partners like Mattel and some other ones that we're about to announce that feel like not just partners, but extensions of the team. You know. Yeah. So.
What's the skill set? We saw some of the animations, and you guys are amazing at making these like animated films of the toys. Like, what's the skill set behind that?
Yeah, so first of all, I can't take credit for that. That's our art and animation team. You know, props to them. And you know, the tools that they use, they're using Maya and a bunch of 3D capture tools and Unity development to bring those things to life. So
gotcha. Okay, so you touched like a little bit on this, but I want to really hone in on this idea, which is that, like, generally speaking, blockchain tech is still like really poor UX. Yes. For most mainstream people. Like if you think about DeFi, right? Like how many people, you know, who are your older relatives do you really know who can get an Ethereum wallet and go like stake tokens in DeFi and make, you know, it's a mess. But what you guys have done at Cryptoys, and, you know, other folks have done this too, like Dapper Labs and NBA Top Shot, you're like really focused on what should be the user experience in a way that makes this simple. So can you like talk about what you've done to make this thing accessible?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think a lot of times early adopters like us and people that are in tech, we tend to place too much emphasis on the underlying technology when consumers don't really care about that at the end of the day. So like my whole theory is that consumers really care first and foremost, especially with Web3 stuff, if they have a great user experience and they're enjoying the product. If there's no great user experience, especially from a consumer perspective, all this is a moot point. So for us, Web3, non-custodial wallets, all that stuff's important, but for us, that's like advanced users. You have to start in a place where people can access this for the first time. Let them create a freaking username and password. Not this wallets and figuring out your ID and self-custody. Let that be the next step for them as they go down the rabbit hole, right? Here are rabbit hole talks, right? Let them go down the rabbit hole into the advanced stuff, but let them start in a simple way. Why? So they can have a forgot my password, you know, option if they don't know their password. Like, you know, there's some of the things that just matter at the end of the day for consumers. And we place a lot of emphasis, have self-custody of your own assets. A lot of people don't want the responsibility of self-custody over their own assets. And like, I know a lot of like folks like us that are really into blockchain, that's like the core of blockchain, and that you could own your own stuff. But some of these people that are entering it for the first time, we also have respect for them that want an experience like Coinbase. Think about Coinbase for a second. When you buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, that's not your Bitcoin. You're telling Coinbase to buy some Bitcoin on your behalf, and Coinbase is giving you an IOU. I owe you 1 Bitcoin. And hopefully when you withdraw that Bitcoin is available to you. Self-custody, it's like not your keys, not your crypto. But like when I was starting early on and buying my first Bitcoin, I didn't want self-custody. I didn't want to deal with all that mess and having my own wallets and all that security. I wanted Coinbase, that platform, to take care of it. So I could say, you know what, I forgot my password. How do I log back in? We need to be doing the same stuff for NFTs. So when it comes to giving people their first Web3 NFT experience, we want it to be as familiar as possible, not something that's foreign where they just leave and say, this is too complex for me.
Excellent. And then a lot of NFTs are on Ethereum, but you guys chose Flow. Right. So can you talk a little bit about that choice? Yeah,
so Flow, incredible company, Dapper Labs, who's also a CoinFund, portfolio company, fantastic partners. They were the ones that made CryptoKitties. They built it on Ethereum. It couldn't scale properly on Ethereum, so they created the Flow blockchain so that it could scale properly to millions and millions of users. They created the blockchain in a way that makes a lot of sense for us in gaming. So for example, they made it in this language called Cadence, which allows, for example, there to be a parent NFT. So let's say it's a Cryptoy that owns various items underneath as like child NFTs and things like that. So you can bundle things together. So like really smart from like a gaming and collectability standpoint. We like that a lot. They also wrote the programming language very well, so that a Web 2 developer that's decent can make the jump to Web 3 very, very easily. And there's often a more of a learning curve with like Solidity or other Web 3 frameworks. The other reason, again, we believe, and this it differs from some people in the space, but our belief is that you look at this thing 10 years from now, the specific blockchain that you choose doesn't really matter as much. What matters to end users or consumers is A, they have a phenomenal user experience, and B, they have true ownership and liquidity of their assets. And if you achieve those things, the blockchain doesn't matter. So it's like, let's pretend, for example, World of Warcraft, incredibly popular game. Imagine tomorrow that World of Warcraft was on chain. Just tomorrow, all of a sudden, you logged in and they had a new pop-up. We're now on chain. And people are like, okay, cool. There's so many users that are passionate on that particular platform. Say, okay, now my stuff's on chain. So I could use World of Warcraft like I always enjoy, but now I could sell it. I have liquidity on a marketplace. I could buy, sell, and trade it. They don't care if it's Polygon or Solana or Flow. They're just gonna be like, all right, I'm on World of Warcraft, it's on chain, and I could sell it because there's liquidity in that particular market. And that's my belief. You see that happening now with Reddit. People use the Reddit digital collectibles. They didn't know it was Polygon on the back end. The whole Starbucks Odyssey thing today, they're using it for the first time. Polygon on the back end, but it's white labeled. So my whole belief is that from a consumer perspective, the blockchain is not going to really matter. It's on the company to decide which blockchain creates the best user experience, and then let the blockchain of choice fade into the background, and you create the market.
I tend to agree with that. So you mentioned, and congrats on the Mattel partnership, but take us into the mind of maybe some like executives at big toys right now. Like, what are they thinking? They're watching NFTs, they're watching the metaverse space. Like, do they feel like competitive? Do they feel like they need to jump on this? Like, what's going through their mind?
So I think early on, every executive at the major toy companies, and frankly, a lot of brands in general, it came up from the C-suite, go have the Web3 NFT conversation, right? So there was like a mandate to explore this new technology. We were really fortunate that Cryptoys became like a premier brand because we really went all in on toys and not a general platform. So we met with every single big toy company, every single one of them. And we chose Mattel because of their forward thinking. The other ones that we talked to, they were like, oh, blockchain, bad for the environment.
Oh, no.
You're a plastic toy company, and they're talking about bad for the environment, right? Like
you process petroleum.
Exactly. But that was the thing. Oh, I don't know about that. And is it going to eat into physical sales and whatnot? And then you talk to, so like, that was like the predominant like vibe that we got with the big toy companies. And then you meet with a company like Mattel, and they thought like a startup. They thought like we would disrupt ourselves because this is coming one way or another, or else we're going to get blockbustered, So they were like leaning forward into it. They're like, you know what? Let's disrupt ourselves. How do we lean more into digital? So that's why we ended up choosing Mattel over the other ones. But all the other ones, they thought that this was a fad. They thought, hey, let's double down on physical and ignore this whole trend, which I think is going to be a mistake.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, last one. This is kind of like from me directly, and then we'll open it up to audience questions.
This is also an investor update. He didn't tell me, but he's getting like
killing two birds with one stone. So AI is a big topic these days. I don't know if folks noticed. Are the toys going to have AI? Tell me the toys are going to have AI.
100% the toys. So not a lot of people know this. We have 2 people on the team that's dedicated to natural language processing and AI. So we're doing gaming, sure. We're also doing applications. For the folks that are parents in the room, you know, these kids are growing up with these AI assistants in the house, Alexa, Google Home, Siri. My son's first word was Adada, trying to activate Alexa. Like, it's incredible. Like, my daughter, every single day, Alexa, play me this song on Spotify, what's the weather, etc. And of course, now Tyler at 20 months old is trying to activate it because he sees the kids do it. But what's interesting is these things are faceless, you know, AI bots. What if we could take these toys and input the same level of AI and utility into these things and make them something you can own and trade and upgrade? So 100% AI is a huge part of this platform, and we made 2 hires that all they do is think about AI and how you can, you know, interact with these toys in cool ways.
Amazing. Thanks, Will. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Cryptoys? Yes, sir.
So you partner with Mattel, you have Masters of the Universe. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so my question is, you know, play patterns in kids, you jump around, like you mentioned, from this game to this game, or they all play together. Is Mattel as forward thinking as to open up Masters of the Universe to hang out with Mickey Mouse and everybody else, or?
So I think every brand thinks differently about interoperability and crossover and stuff. Mattel happens to be incredibly forward thinking about that, because if you think of like the physical analogy, there's nothing stopping our kids from going out and taking Barbie and Batman and putting Batman in Barbie's playhouse. That's kind of the beauty of it, right? But sometimes they're married. Absolutely. So Mattel thinks of that as well in the digital space. Like, let's do these cool crossover moments and stuff. They think that's really awesome. Some brands don't think that way. That's okay too. They want to segment their brands. But we like to lean forward into interoperability. It's a core spirit and ethos of Web3, and we hope more brands warm up to that. You see things like Fortnite and Roblox, where like at Fortnite, you could see Darth Vader, you know, hanging out with Spider-Man, and that's part of the beauty of it. So from a Web3 perspective, we hope more brands open up to that possibility. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Questions?
Yes.
So on the security architect part, not a critical term, but a fact.
Okay.
So I deal with security architecture. So how do you secure NFTs for the kids? How do you secure that technology?
Yeah, so for us, I think core Web3 is a lot about self-custody and your keys and whatnot, and I think that's great, and we need to get there with education. To onboard consumers onto this for the first time, you really need to implement a lot of Web 2 frameworks and stuff that's already tried and true. For example, 2-factor authentication, parental support, you know, and supervision and things like that. So like all the stuff, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Similar things are what Coinbase is doing, because they're a custodial wallet at the end of the day. What Dapper Labs has done, we're implementing as well from a security standpoint. And a lot of blockchain NFT maxis will look at us and be like, yo, that's not true Web3. That's not truly decentralized. I'm okay with that. I'll take that heat, because I don't think that's what's going to onboard the masses and really unlock this next chapter for Web3. We need more people onboarding comfortably and not worried about self-custody or anything like that. So we're just taking a lot of Web 2 security methods from banks, from exchanges, from things like that, and implementing them in our platform as well.
Investors to invest in your own technology. For instance, you mentioned 2-factor authentication.
Yeah.
You might need OAuth 2.
Yeah.
You might need a pay integration, which is some of these servers. Perhaps you might need HSMs.
Sure.
And so, and tokenization, so no one steals that.
That's right.
So are you using the investors to how are you investing in your company?
Mm-hmm.
Investing in your company. Why is it?
We leverage a lot of different partners, a lot of them on the security side, and it's up to our engineering team at the end of the day. Security is like a thing that they think about every single day. So they leverage a bunch of different partners, authorization partners, APIs, and security methods. They use whatever they think is best to give our users the most secure platform possible.
I think you have a great idea. My son has a big box of toys and never plays with.
Yeah.
But he's always playing on his
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
Yep.
So it's a great idea, great concept. So I just don't follow you. One last question. Regulation. What's going on with FTX?
Yeah.
So what's going on with your industry because of NFT?
Yes.
Is there any regulation?
So.
What regulation? Many people say crypto's going to be decentralized.
Right.
At the end of the day, what happened with FTX, you got those crypto companies, no one's going to go in and invest that much. Not that you regulation.
That's correct. I think that this is, I'd love to hear your viewpoint on this as well, Jay, because I know you're super tapped in. From my standpoint, and I was actually just at an offsite with another one of our investors, A16Z, and they had 3 congressmen on the stage talking about this FTX fallout. And by the way, what happened at FTX, you can't compare it to like a Coinbase, for example. It's a publicly traded, here in the US, audited financially company that is completely transparent. FTX was a kid and a bunch of kids in the Bahamas for a reason, right? They were doing things offshore. It was very, very shady. So there is regulation already happening with stuff like Coinbase that's done properly. There will be more regulation coming. I think that's a good thing because, you know, people could be more confident in the space overall. Crypto in general goes through these moments in time. Unfortunately, a guy like SBF sets the industry back a couple years, but the industry has been set back a couple years now many, many times and continues to come back stronger. From the NFT perspective, this bear market to me is very different because a lot of people point to the other bear markets. This is the first bear market ever after the NFT boom. And what the NFT boom did was it consumerized blockchain for the first time. Up until this point, it was DeFi and cryptocurrency. It was very trading. It was very financial. And all of a sudden, you have artists and creatives and storytellers and media companies. And I think it's now way too big for one particular person to set it back like it would if it was just a financial instrument like it was in previous bear markets. So culture has arrived to Web3 and the blockchain. And if Art Basel was any indication, like even in the bear market, this is as strong as it's ever going to be, and it's going to rebound faster than I think previous bear markets. I don't know if you think similarly, and as far as regulation.
Oh yeah, I mean like Miami has a bunch of Web3 now, like because of that, right? My message on FTX is that like what happened there has been happening on Wall Street for like 100 years, right? It was a human counterparty risk. It was like you trust your money with someone and they never do a good job, you know, being your agent. The funny thing is that regulation wouldn't, you know, it can't proactively prevent this, but there is a technology that can, and that's called smart contracts. Right. And so my message is like, we need to do a better job as an industry adopting some of these smart contract technologies that lower things like counterparty risk, increase transparency. You could see proof of reserves, proof of liabilities. You can make guarantees about, you know, hey, if you deposit your money here, like the smart contract will guarantee that you can take it out. And what's the reality? The reality is that today, decentralized exchanges take up about 4 to 8% of daily volume only. And that means we're not doing a good enough job with UX. The main reasons why people prefer centralized exchanges today is because they don't have good rails to get their money into DeFi. It's because, like, when you do go into DeFi, these exchanges don't have the same feature sets as what FTX had, like basic stuff like limit orders, stop loss orders, you know, things that traders want to use as professional tools, just not there in DeFi. And then like a bunch of, you know, technical issues like front running, but all of these are totally solvable through technology and entrepreneurship, and we need to do a better job of getting it adopted. But the last message there is we gotta get that message to our regulators, right? Because otherwise, you know, they're gonna pass laws that are gonna prevent crypto from achieving its full
And here's the thing, the congressman that was on stage just last week, they really are encouraging. They're like, we believe in Web3. There's a lot of people right now in Washington on the Hill that are big Web3 proponents. You would think that everybody's anti-crypto. It's not the case at all. And it's on us, everybody here in this room. It was amazing for me. I personally saw, they said, reach out to us. Let us go out to lunch with you. Let us hear from you on what the regulations should be, because the stuff that's happening in the next year, the regulations that are passed will shape the next 10 years of the industry, because now there's calls to crack down on things. You'd be surprised just how open your local congressmen are and congresswomen to having conversations with you that you could implement change in Washington. So it's on us to reach out and have these conversations with these people because they're ready for it, you know?
I think change will happen. Right?
Yeah.
Regulation is closer to Wall Street and Washington. So it's nothing coming.
Yeah.
The thing is, how fast people are going to invest their money. Something that, like you said, this guy did everyone back 10 years ago.
I wouldn't say 10.
I was like 3 years. Now I might start investing.
18 months.
You know what? In a way, there's some silver linings here because it weeds out all the people that were here just for the greed and making money. If you're still here right now, you're of the people that are building the foundation for this next cycle, and that's a really healthy thing. Like we need to weed out the people that were here.
Lost your money in FTX. The fact that FTX was regulated by the STIC FINRA, that says that they're insured, so they should be able to pay back all those people that invested that money. So perhaps NFT would be the first one in the gaming industry to be insured, right?
Well, yeah, the goal is for it to have all the regulations and safeguards possible to make this as safe for everyone. Everybody should participate in this economy safely.
I was sad that my son's using one of these tools on the phone got scammed by getting one toy, one digital toy.
Right.
That cost like $2 or $3. Imagine that times 20 million transactions.
Yep.
You gotta protect that.
100%. Yep.
Nice to guys as security.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd love for you to audit our platform. That'd be awesome. We'll reach out.
Awesome. Anyone else have a question?
Yeah, right here. This is Adam. I like your approach to the technology. And so my question is, would on-chain studios be interested in collaboration or licensing the technology to other verticals outside of toys?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons we structured the company this way, where you had on-chain studios as the parent and Cryptoys as the product, is so we can explore other avenues for technology. So, for better or for worse, we built our own wallet and payment solution when we could have used the third party. That potentially could be leveraged for other applications. Taking the technology, the framework, and the stack for other verticals besides toys, absolutely. If there's opportunities, I think right now we're so focused on Cryptoys, we want to nail that market. But we built a lot of proprietary tech that we'd love to explore doing other things with. So absolutely, yeah, we should talk. Sure.
All right, maybe one more if anyone has one. Or yes, sir.
Your opinion about the onboarding for new users.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that users can click forgot your password.
Yeah.
Where are those private keys stored?
So we create effectively, when you create a Cryptoys account, we're creating a wallet. We're creating a custodial wallet for you.
Correct.
At that point, we store that. We store that securely for you, yes. And then we have third-party wallet support coming so that you could take your tokens off if you're a more advanced user.
Okay, perfect. Second one, how do you guys are integrating a Unity game with a blockchain?
Unity games?
Yeah, and a Unity game with a blockchain.
So it's a normal Unity game. A lot of people try to conflate these things by putting all these things on chain. Users don't care. You create a normal you create a normal Unity game, and the assets themselves are connected to tokens that allow you to use those assets in game.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, in case that once you're in the metaverse, you could interact.
Oh, absolutely. So like what we've done is these are flow tokens at the end of the day. So anyone that wants to support, we're creating an SDK around Cryptoys. So if any other platform wants to support Cryptoys tokens and assets, you could then port it into their application.
Okay. So good idea. Better than having another layer or a bridge.
Yeah.
And the other one is about the competition. Have you seen, for example, yesterday Pixelball announced some toys. They also have AI. And if you have been following, for example, the trademarks, Disney announced pattern, trademarks for toys, and a bunch of other Web2 companies. So how do you see those, that converting? Because you guys are in the front line of.
Yeah. Look, this is definitely not a winner-take-all market. There's there could be multiple successful companies in these verticals, just like there's multiple billion-dollar physical toy companies, multiple billion-dollar media companies. Like this isn't something we're going after and saying, hey, we should be the only digital toy company. I think we're off to a decent start. I think we're creating and leading a lot of the space. But there is other companies out there doing some stuff that I think is also really cool and innovative. All we got to do from our standpoint is focus on what we can control, build the best product possible, bring smiles to people's faces, and the rest will take care of itself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. CoinFund Rabbit Hole Talks happen once a month right here at the Lab Miami.